Start the meeting.
I get to Miss Baker.
Okay, the meeting's live. I'm gonna monitor the
Okay,
attendees for additional Matthews.
all right. Well, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'll just kind of take the role of members who are here. And if I mispronounce it, I apologize. Please correct me. We're still waiting on Barbara Baker, I know, but is James Dom,
That's me, yes. Present.
Reverend Gray,
Present.
Thomas Lawson,
Present.
Ornitha Lewis Walls, Janice Mensa,
Present.
Mike Milton,
I think you're muted still, Mike.
Sorry, present.
Hillary Stuckey,
Present.
and then Pam Walker.
Present.
And then Barbara's here from the city councilors, Burkett from the city councilor's office to help us with the legal questions. The item on, does everybody have a copy of the agenda? I received it that we're working from. So item number 2 is the proposed board rules and procedures. Has everybody received a copy of that? Is there any discussion regarding the proposed rules and procedures?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I've got a question on section 3.3 where it talks about what we can discuss and what we can't discuss. I'm just curious how that impacts people with their other lives, because the way I read that, it applies to everything, not just things that are currently before the board.
Don't stand behind me.
So if somebody calls Hillary and says, I'm in the jail and I'm not happy because I think I have monkeypox,
You're standing behind me. This is a public meeting.
and has to write it down and report it to the chairman.
Where am I supposed to go?
I know a lot of people on the board get those kinds of input from people currently in the system. So how are we supposed to manage that?
May I make a comment, Chairman,
Please,
or
yeah.
Matthew Brumman, Commissioner, I'm sorry. I think that, Member Walker's correct. I mean, this verbiage could change. I think that the goal that you're trying to do is not to have contacts outside of the board meetings, not to talk to witnesses like an investigator aside from what they're going to testify in front of the board, to not do those things. And if one of those things occurs, I think she's absolutely correct to state it on the record. This is what happened. This person called me, and have it be all, transparent and above board. But I'm not really sure. Is there a specific language that you object to?
Well, Barbara, is her read of I read the section to pertain only if it involves the matter before the board, like a specific investigation. Is that, or is her read accurate that it would be anything that would be within our jurisdiction as a board?
I'm looking at it carefully now because I don't want to misspeak. Let's see. Any member who has had an unauthorized communication concerning an agenda item. So we have an agenda item outside of a public meeting. So there's outside of a public meeting with an interested party, including but not limited to a complainant and an officer in the City of St. Louis Division of Corrections, a witness, or anybody representing those people or a relative, shall promptly notify the chair of the contact and furnish to the chair the name of such interested party, and on of the details. So this this is, yeah, to your point, Commissioner, this is a communication concerning something that has to be on the agenda that's not during a public meeting and that's with one of these interested parties.
Can I chime in? It's Reverend Gray. I mean, I share some concern with Ms. Walker. My first concern is just, how do you define unauthorized communication? I think that for me is the first flag in this, what determines unauthorized communication.
I think that tonight you're probably going to, well, you are, according to your agenda, you're going to elect a chairman and a vice chairman and a secretary, and you're probably going to determine if the chair is your point of contact, or, you know, I think that maybe that cart is ahead of the horse, you know, that
Which one is ahead of the horse? The rules or the election?
someone's going to be your communicator, someone's going to be your spokesperson, and I think you probably haven't selected that person yet. So, you know, let's just hypothetically say we select a chair, or you select a chair, and then that chair you decide is your spokesperson, and then that chairman asks the other member to speak, to do this, to authorize a communication.
Okay, and I guess y'all understand my position, because I understand what you're saying. It's one thing to have someone who is the point of contact for public communication. It's another thing, though, for people to have conversation or communication. Let's say somebody called me up. I'm not a chair, I'm not a vice chair, I'm not anything, but somebody calls me up regarding an issue in the facility, and I engage in a conversation, but it's involving the facility and it's involving something regarding the facility. So are you saying, because it's not on the agenda and because I've not been given authority to have that conversation, and because it has not gone through a process, that I am obligated to share that information at the first board meeting? You see what I mean? And just all of those things. Help me out,
I mean,
Ms. Barr.
in your hypothetical, you are not on the agenda. I think, you know, that's the thing, but again, this is for you to formulate it. So if you want it to be any contact that has to do with the community, you know, you could make it any contact that has to do with the Justice Center or whatever. But yeah, this draft says agenda item.
Okay.
Concerning.
So if it wasn't an agenda item, then it wouldn't fall within this section.
Okay.
Not the way this is written, but you can change it. This is your time.
Right.
I do have a question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Janice. Go ahead.
I have a question about for Barbara Burkett about the last line. Board members shall not interview or obtain information regarding an investigation or complaint outside the official proceedings of the board. I think that kind of relates to the scenario that Reverend Gray brought up, in terms of if there's something that, a situation that is a complaint, but it's also, you know, in the news, public knowledge, an event in the facility. If someone is giving us information about that, like a private citizen is giving us information about that, would we have to do the process of putting it in writing, that kind of thing? Would that be unauthorized communication?
Yeah, I think that's fairly common. I mean, if this were a different kind of board, if this were the IRS and we were, you know, you wouldn't be doing your own investigation, you know, the investigator would be doing it. You'd be asking them questions at the board meeting and getting that out at the hearing. I think it's a fairly common kind of provision, but I think that's what it's aimed at. You're not getting alone with an investigator or a witness and doing something on your own, but instead referring them to the board, and everyone's here, all the parties are hearing it at the same time, and everybody has the ability to be noticed and ask the questions like a regular, you know, hearing.
So with that scenario, for those of us on the board that are community activists or community organizers, would that mean any conversation we have with the public in regards to concerns about the facility, we would have to put in writing with their name.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd
the way
like,
this is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I'd like more time to work on this. Is there a way we could take that part out for now? Since we don't have any investigations going on and probably aren't going to be before the next meeting, can we take that paragraph out and work on it and let people think about it? Because it just it struck me today. I mean, we're not necessarily going to be like the police where we investigate X shooting. We're going to do broader things like the mental health services or the health services where we've already heard thousands of complaints. I'm exaggerating, but if you ask Arch City defenders, and they're going to have lists of complaints about this stuff that some of us have already discussed, that might not be individual based, but it might be broader based. But we'll have to delve, part of the reasons we got subpoena power was so that we could delve into the data to determine, what's real and not real. So at some point we'll get there. But it just feels like that language is sort of designed for, like you said, the IRS or a specific situation that's being investigated. And we're going to do broader policy things sometimes.
I would also note there's a difference between actively investigating and then receiving complaints in the normal course of your business. Like I don't think anybody's asking you to stop doing what you do. I think it's more of don't be proactive outside on a specific investigation that's before the board. But Pam, was that a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we delete paragraph 3.3. Give everybody time to have input to Barb about language that works better for them or that they have a problem with, so she can massage it and bring it back to the next board meeting.
Second.
Okay. And any discussion on the motion? We want to go ahead and vote?
Yes.
Okay, let's say all in, do we have to do a roll call vote or can we just vote by voice vote?
We can do a voice vote unless somebody.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to remove section 3.3 from the proposed rules and procedures, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by unanimous consent.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pass as drafted with
Okay,
that, as amended, I mean.
okay. And second,
If there's a hesitancy, if somebody else wants a second, please go ahead. I'll wait. I just don't think that the same name should be on the motions all the time. That's why I hesitated. But if nobody's, go ahead.
I'll second.
I second.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go, James. Thank you, James.
James, second. Is there any discussion as to the rest of the rules and procedures? And I would just note that the ordinance calls for, we're going to have to do additional rules and procedures on receiving complaints, on conducting inquiries. That's all stuff that's still to be determined. This is mostly giving us a framework of how to run meetings for the board. Was there any other discussion or concerns?
Yeah, I have a couple different concerns, specifically with section 4.2, a little bit about 4.1, but I agree with Pam that we haven't had enough time with the information to really form a thought around it. The concerns that I have is around some of the broader language around what's ethical, a little bit of a definition around the conflict of interest. I think what I'm reading out of it is talking about mostly financial conflict of interest. If so, I don't think that that's that's necessarily narrowly defined here, and I think it should be. So I think the one what I would raise was that maybe we need some more time with this bill overall to make sure that we can comply with it specifically because our organization, I'm the executive director of an organization that goes in and out the jail often, and I think it has a lot of ramifications with it.
Commissioner Brumman, may I just make a quick comment?
Please.
Whether or not you have this section 4 in your draft, I just want to, I don't know if some of you took the boards and commission training already, or if you need to take the board and commission training. But these chapter 105 citations apply to you whether or not these rules apply to you whether or not they're part of your bylaws. So I just want to throw that out there. So if anybody has a question about that, or wants to talk about that further, we could have a education session about that. You can find these rules on the Missouri Ethics Commission website. I also have them in booklet form in my office. If you want to get a hold of them, you can give me a call. My number is 622-4257. But those city officials are required to follow those rules. So I just want to, and they're a little bit even more detailed, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that and, not unaware.
And Mike is, I operated under those rules for a long time, and it was always pretty clear that it's financial.
Right.
That we just can't use our position for financial gain. Because now the potential for corruption on a board like this with people who are incarcerated could be really high, when we start investigating cases and doing some of those things. So, I think that's what it's intended to be. But I also hear you that you work for an organization and you get paid by an organization that's in there all the time. And so you are going to have financial gain from your job.
Yeah.
That's outside of this board. For somebody like me, it's real clear. But for some of you guys, it's a little bit murky. And I agree, we need to clarify that some to the extent we can under the Missouri ethics laws.
If I may, yeah, Mike, and I think Janice mentioned the same thing. For those of us who are advocates and work for advocacy organizations, and there are at least 3 of us on the board, at least 3.
Yes.
But I do think, and I think I agree that I'm not sure we can change any of this because this is standard. I think that it is important, as we've said, is that maybe we get some training. We're going to get some other training too. That we understand it. For me, if I wanted to split hairs and it said, and see a corporation or organization which the member of their immediate family member has a financial or other affiliation. Well, the financial part wouldn't be the part that bothered me, but the other affiliation. But this is a standard code of conduct, conflict of interest.
Yeah,
it's standard.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm clear on that. I think what I'm asking for is that if there's an opportunity for us to define some of these a little bit stronger, to where it's clear for people who would that's a thin line for, I think that's necessary. But I'm clear that it's standard. I think. Yeah. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah. All right.
And there's nothing preventing us from modifying these rules and policies as we go forward. I'm sure as we are working and meeting, we're going to come across instances where these will need to be modified, and that's just the board can do that. Hillary, did you have a comment?
I was just saying, I just think it was the urgency probably for everybody on the board just to be clear before things start happening, because we know that things happen very quickly in St. Louis City. So just having those implemented and in place is just the urgency. So maybe we could just, I don't know when the next meeting is or anything, but how we could, modify and clarify all the points that have been made for sure. I agree with all of the, the members that have already spoke about being clear. So that was what my concern was.
Hey, Barbara, is there a method or way that we could, on specific instances where there's potential conflict of interest, that the board could rule and say, we've looked at this specific situation and we've decided that's not a conflict of interest for this board member to participate?
I don't think I see that in your enabling ordinance in 71430, but I mean, I think that if somebody could bring a question to you, you know, and you could point them in the right direction and say, this is what I would look at when making this decision. And a lot of times, you know, individual board members, they may make a decision because they want to avoid the appearance of a conflict, or they may want to just say, I don't know, whatever, some statement that might not rise to the level of a conflict under the state law, but they want it to be on the record that they, you know, that they want to be transparent. So, I mean, there's a number of things that could happen. So I would think maybe the first step would be that you ask them to bring it to you if they think they have a potential.
Okay.
Or
We
if they
can
know they
also,
do.
we can also recuse ourselves.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and
like
that may
if- like
very
if
well
my-
be.
If my cousin's is a detainee involved specifically in one of our investigations, I would be expected to recuse myself.
Any other discussion on the motion to adopt the rules as amended?
Or is there an alternative motion? You know, is there a motion to delay and let Barb work on it after our input?
Yeah, I would
What's your comfort?
I'm sorry, Pam, what'd you say?
I would just say, what's your comfort level at this point? And if
Yeah,
there's an alternative, I got no skin in this game. So just because I made a motion doesn't mean it's the right one.
Yeah, I mean, if possible, I would like to make a motion to delay, to give us more time with this.
A
Would
second.
the original motion maker withdraw your original motion?
Yes.
And then would that second, Reverend, would that second withdraw his second?
James did the second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I twisted his
And now,
arm and he did it.
okay, excuse me, Commissioner.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. So,
And I think there's a new motion on the floor that has yet to defer consideration to the next meeting. Am I correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
And
Move-
it
Moved
hasn't
by
been.
Michael. Moved by Michael, seconded by myself.
okay. Any discussion on delaying the adoption of rules?
I do have a question about that. What else would be delayed if we don't adopt the rules at this meeting in terms of, what else can't move until we adopt the rules? I guess that's a question for the commissioner or whoever.
I think practically speaking, I don't see that it's going to delay much of anything, because there's still, and we'll talk about this later in the agenda, there's still a period of orientation. We have to bring in officials and attorneys to talk about the duties of the board as to the sunshine law and confidentiality. I've been speaking with the Commissioner of Corrections to talk about how we're going to give an overview of the operations and their policies and procedures they're currently going by. So the first couple meetings are going to be pretty kind of learning education intensive anyway. So I don't, unless Barbara, you think of something that not having any rules is.
No, I mean, the bylaws are really for the benefit of the board. So you know how everything is, running. They could be even more detailed. You could say what, if you have absences, you get removed. You could, they're the rules that you're going to operate under. So they sometimes, if you want to do a certain thing and you want it to be a higher level and you have to have a 2/3 vote, you can put that in your bylaws. A lot of times bylaws should be reviewed annually to see how they're working for you, because they should help you. They should have a, your inner workings laid out so they're very clear to everyone. So, I mean, if people haven't had a chance to really think about it or, you know, digest it, or do you want to adopt Robert's Rules of Order? You could do that, but if you do that, then you have to follow it, you know, so there's just considerations to be made. And I know this is what you're doing is setting up your preferences and what you want. And I would point out that some of the things like the Sunshine Law and the ethics chapter, you have to follow that regardless of whether they're in the, and I already did say that, but yeah, I mean, it certainly wouldn't prevent you from meeting or having a training or, you know.
Okay. I was also
Go ahead.
I was also going to ask Barbara if our orientation involves like a crash course on Robert's rules. Or no?
Not to my knowledge. No, I don't think anybody else has done that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, you couldn't ask for that or set that up. That seems like a perfectly good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, we can add that.
That'd be great.
The thing, not having rules would affect, I think, the election of officers. We wouldn't be able to elect any officers. Because we don't have any rules to govern the election of them.
Okay. Would that also mean that if there is another, there's not going to be another bill signing, I imagine. But if there's another bill signing type event that we don't have a spokesperson.
Correct.
Until the rules are adopted, until the chair is elected.
Correct. Or however
Yes.
the board wants to choose a spokesperson.
It could be,
Okay.
Commissioner Drummond, you could adopt the bylaw to the extent of section 1 and 2 if you want to forge on with that. I mean, you don't have to. That's just another idea to entertain.
I'm my only concern, and I'm following, you know, Janice and Mike and Pam and all of us understood there was some urgency in this. Pam and I have been working on this since the uprising a couple of years ago, went through the whole task force thing, went through the recommendations. Out of it came this. And so I am a little bit concerned prolonging or postponing. I think some things can be postponed. I think other things don't have to. The legislation exists. The legislation, for the most part, speaks to how we make choices as well as it relates to officers. It's in the legislation. And so the legislation exists. Robert's Rules of Orders, you know, the way we conduct business, I would venture to say that most of us on the call are familiar, but I would agree that some training to refamiliarize and us working together as a team and understanding it, I think would be great. The meetings and officers and terms, those are some things I think that we can move forward on so that we know when we're meeting. Matt's got a lot of stuff to do, but we are a board and we've got 9 very capable and competent people.
I would feel comfortable making the motion that we pass sections 1 and section 2 so that we can move forward with the board organization of a chairman and officers. And
so I think we have to have first we have to have the motion to delay withdrawn before we make another motion, because there's a motion currently before the board to delay adoption. So Mike, are you withdrawing?
I would withdraw. I can withdraw. Yep.
Okay.
Mike, as a seconder, can I ask you this, Mike, that your motion could be amended just to delay action on section 3 and delay action on section 4, because section 1 is meetings, section 2 is officers, and section 5 is non-discrimination. And I don't think any of us are going to object to those 3, but the ones that we want more time on. So I'm just suggesting to Michael, if your motion wants to be more specific and say, we'll hold off on 3 and 4 as a seconder, I'd be happy to second that motion again.
Yeah, I mean, my only concerns is 3 and 4. So,
Right.
and I understand we want to move it forward so we can elect offices, so we could, do what we have to do. So that's where I'm at. I think that I agree with that. That section 3 and 4 is what I want to pause on, and I
Okay.
will withdraw my motion for the delay.
So you're amending your motion to adopt the proposed rules, sections 1, 2, and 5, and then delay adoption of, and not adopt sections 3 and 4 at this time.
Correct.
And that is seconded by Reverend Gray.
Yep, I agree with that. I second
Okay.
that.
Any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Again, I'll just take all those in favor of the motion to adopt the rules, proposed rules, sections 1, 2, and 5, not sections 3 and 4 at this time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. And we will proceed on to the next agenda item. All right, the rules call for the elections of a chairperson, vice chairperson, and a secretary, who will, the duties of the chairperson are to supervise the affairs of the board, to include calling and presiding over meetings, overseeing the voting on board-related business, and then serve as the spokesperson of the board unless otherwise designated. The vice chairperson will serve as the chairperson when the chairperson's unavailable. And then the secretary would be responsible for the meeting minutes kept. The terms are 1 year from the date of appointment. And you're not, the rules call for not serving consecutive terms. Any motions or nominations for any of the positions?
I would nominate Reverend Gray. Just for to share my reasoning. I hope I don't share too much, Reverend Gray. Stop me if I do, but I know him pretty well, and I know he represents a great many of us on this committee because of his professional career, both inside jails and outside within the justice system. He has been arrested, detained, and charged by the city in one situation. He was a statewide elected official in Kansas. So I found him to be very politically astute and saved my bacon a couple of times. This committee came out of the work of the other task force, and I don't want to keep, digging up a dead horse and beating it, but we concluded early on that task force that we were going to spend our time on they said until eternity, unless somebody got subpoena power, and we put together some sort of individual or group to do that. Reverend Gray shepherded that through the task force, and then he advocated for it through the Board of Aldermen, and that's why we're here today. So I'm very comfortable with this first year as we go through our storming and forming process that we have that experience as our chairman.
And that's as chairperson?
Yes,
Is there a second?
Are you asking for a second nomination?
Or, yeah, I don't know, if you have to nominate, the nomination has to be seconded, or?
It doesn't have to
If
be
that's
second.
yeah. Once you have a second, you can take a vote, or you can discuss further and take a vote.
well, when do we call for other nominations?
I would suggest you have one motion on the floor at a time, but
And that could be part of the discussion, is that there's other people who would, yeah.
As the chair of this meeting, Matt, my suggestion is that you would continue to ask if there are any other nominations.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Are there any other nominations for chairperson?
I would nominate Janice. Since March all the way until basically several weeks ago, he's the one who's actually taken a lot of initiative in bringing those of us together and bringing up points, taking the lead, constantly being in contact with the board, Aldermanic board. He's the one who has arranged kind of a previous visit to the detention facility. I think that his leadership is certainly there. He has the ability to bring people together, be organized, and I really was impressed with his style since we started. So I'd like to nominate Janice.
Any other nominations for chairperson?
I would like to nominate Barb Baker for chair. I know she's not here, but Barb Baker, my personal philosophy has been that Barb Baker has been an advocate for this community for so many years, but it has shown, and her leadership has shown specifically with people that I've built out. They all know Barb Baker. They she's intimately involved with the all of the inside of what's going on. She still mentors people who come from CJC. My personal philosophy is that we should have people who are impacted and directly impacted at the front of these types of things. And so I know Barb Baker is not here, but she has shown her leadership in the community for so many years, specifically around this issue. And I just think that she's an amazing spokesperson when it comes to women who are incarcerated in our systems.
She doesn't want to talk. Okay, Barb is able to, she's on the call and is able to listen, but for some reason is unable to talk. But I guess she told someone she declined the nomination.
Someone would have to make a motion for nominations to come to a close and maybe give the two people an opportunity to say something, would be my recommendation. But there has to be if there are no more nominations, Matt, you can determine that the nominations are closed by asking 3 times if there are any other nominations.
Are there any further nominations for chairperson? Any further nominations? Going once, going twice? All right, I would say the nominations are closed. Do the nominees like to speak?
Janice, I'll yield to you if you'd like to go first, or I can. It doesn't matter to one of us.
Sure, I can go. Thank you, Reverend. I'd just like to say that I appreciate the nomination, Thomas. I am passionate and committed, if given the role of chairperson. I do agree with Thomas that I am able to do the job. My only hesitation is having not gone through orientation yet, and having read through Robert's rules, but the book was very long and it was very confusing, I'll be honest. I've been in several board meetings where Robert's rules were followed, but there are many intricacies there. However, yeah, again, I would like to say that I'm passionate and committed about this board and about my community in St. Louis. And I will yield to Reverend Gray.
No, Janice, I just want to say this. I'm torn right now because I'd love to see you as chair, and I don't want to be competing you and I. Pam said something when we were on the task force. You know, people said, you know, Reverend Gray, don't do it. You're an advocate. Don't do it. Don't go on the task force. Don't validate it, because there's nobody else on there that has any quote unquote street credit. Pam must mean that means I got beat up by the police, but I did it because I said, if we're not in the room, like Mike said, if we're not in the room, how are we going to change anything? And so we were in the room. We got 80 some recommendations. The top 10 recommendations coming out of that, number one was to create this oversight board. I did the research. I made the presentation. I went before the board. I know I'm qualified, as I know Janice is. I know I'm qualified. I'm a former elected official, so I do know Robert's rules. I can conduct a meeting. I've got some political savviness, although some people would say sometimes it doesn't seem like I do. But as spokesperson for this board, my first commitment would be to this board and to the constituents we represented. And my commitment would be the spokesperson for the board, not Reverend Gray. I would love to serve for 1 year to at least see us out of the box with a commitment to bring to use it also as an opportunity to mentor and to bring other folk on. And then finally, let me say this, and I know this is a public forum and I don't like being drawn into stuff. I'm impacted too. And I'll leave it at that without going into anything in detail because I don't think it's necessary. I'm impacted. I live in St. Louis, but that's not why I'm impacted. Being a Black man is not why I'm impacted. Being a former correctional officer is not why I'm impacted. There are other reasons that I will not discuss here, but I want to make that clear. I understand. And so if this board felt that I could serve for a year and that I would serve it well, I'd be more than happy to serve, with the understanding, Janet, that I'm looking to mentor. All right. So I'll be quiet now. You know, I'm a Baptist preacher. We get long little things there. So. Stop it, Mike. Be nice. Mike, be nice.
Can I ask a question to the nominees, please? I think the Reverend Gray, you know, I'm a fan. The major concern that I have with nominating you is if I'm not mistaken, one of the recommendations of the previous one was to build a new jail and to use ARPA funds to build a new jail. Is that correct?
That was one of the recommendations that came from the task force, but it was not my recommendation.
Okay.
There were 80 plus recommendations. As the chair, my responsibility as any spokesperson is, this is coming from the board. I don't support a new jail personally, but yes, it was a recommendation from the task force, as there were 85 other recommendations too.
But did you support that as a recommendation to put inside of that report?
No, what I supported was and Pam will correct me if I'm wrong, what I supported was a study. And the study was because we realized that that box that people are living in now was not conducive to anything healthy or anything safe. So I did support a study, because a study, Mike, would have then compared the two, compared what we now have and what should be. More space, recreation, outside this. And so that was my motivation, to look at a comparison, which is why I supported a study, but I did not support the building of a new jail. So I'm glad you asked me that, because somebody finally asked me, and now it's on the record.
Well, you know, I asked you before, but the goal specifically with the ARPA funds at that time was, one, to support individuals who were deeply impacted by COVID. And of course, we know that's Black and poor communities. And CJC for a long time has been an ailment to the Black and poor communities that we serve and that we exist in. And so I do find it concerning that one of the recommendations out of all of the things that happens within that jail was to build a new one, or even to study to build a new one, given the fact that our city is consistently very high in incarceration, but yet it has not made us more safe. And so obviously I had to ask that question. I think it's something that I'm consistently concerned about. Another one of the concerns that I have is with the previous investigations was how much we centered those who were impacted or who's detained. And so I do know that Shai did a pretty good job on that. And I'm a fan of the work on that. But again, my question still raised with how, that whole thing that happened around the ARPA and wanting to build a new jail. So I wanted to ask that for clarity.
And I appreciate it. And then, I want finally, whoever selected to be the spokesperson for this board is going to have to be the spokesperson for the board. And that means that we are going to have discussions that we're not all going to agree on. But coming out of the meeting, the spokesperson is going to have to say that the board has concluded, not 5 of us over here and 4 of us over here, but the board has voted, and this is the decision of the board. Inside, I can disagree vehemently. I can disagree on A, B, and C. As the chair, my role, or Janice's role, is going to be impartial, to conduct the meeting, to be impartial. But at the end of the discussion, at the end of the vote, the spokesperson is responsible for what the majority has concluded. And I agree with you, Michael. The 88 recommendations, I did not agree with all 88 of them. But as the chair of the board of the task force, I was locked into saying these are the recommendations. So I know that doesn't, because you and I have had this discussion. So it doesn't change the recommendation. I just want people to understand my role in the recommendation. That it didn't come from me. I didn't support it, but as the chair, I had to articulate it.
I mean, I do find it interesting because there were people on that board who we had talked to, several people who also said they didn't even know that their recommendation was even part of the final recommendation, and it wasn't part of the final recommendation that they approved on, which I think, whatever happens, what happened, and hearsay is hearsay. But I think it is true that when it comes to this board, and the concern that we have with this board is making sure that we're all on one accord. And even if we're not all on one accord, we're making sure that we're representing the spirit of the board, which is to help the people who are detained inside. And so I don't think under no circumstances that building a new jail would have helped someone who's detained inside. So I think that's one of the reasons why I raised it as a concern.
No, I appreciate it. And good news is that's not something that we have to deal with as a detention oversight board. That's the good news. And whoever told you they didn't know about that, that's a little bit disingenuous, because every member of that task force received information from start to finish, everything, particularly the last 10 recommendations. But anyway,
I think Hillary, you have your hand up, I see.
I just had a quick question for both nominators. That if we're put in the position, both have different scheduling. My question to both of them is being available for the board when things arise, the promptness. I know everybody's schedule is different, people travel, things of that nature. So I just want to see the response from both to be able to communicate as we need to respond to the media or whomever we need to right away. Do either parties have any objections to being available to the needs of the board?
No objections. I have no objections. I've made a commitment to this board from day one, and my commitment stands. If I'm the chairperson or not, I'm still committed to this board.
Okay.
And will be available.
Yeah, I would also say objections, but to be more specific, I have a full-time remote job. I do have flexibility in terms of other than meetings, I really am free to be flexible. I do, of course, have to work sometimes. Yeah, I keep my phone on me. I haven't had any problems with maintaining contact. Thanks for the question, Hillary.
It was just something simple because I just know that, everybody's life is busy. So I just wanted to see what you all had to say about that.
Any further discussion, questions?
Can I just say something? I don't have a question.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say to your previous statement, Reverend Gray, that we certainly would not be in competition. I have the utmost respect for you from meeting you, protesting in the streets up until now. And I really appreciate the term length of the chairperson being 1 year and that the chairperson cannot serve consecutive terms. I think whether it be Reverend Gray or myself, I think that we would both appreciate that either way and would both probably be looking to be chairperson in the future. And I know that the chairperson will have a tough task being chairperson in this first year while a lot of things are happening and we're also getting up and started. But I do really appreciate the system that was proposed in the procedures. And I would also like to say, with regards to the spokesperson, I would like to have an open discussion about just even the concept of one spokesperson or just having a spokesperson that, I hope you can still hear me, having a spokesperson that makes live statements. And that's going to be the end of my comment.
Any further discussion? I think the easiest way would be just to have each member, since there's two candidates, state who they are voting for. And any objection to voting that way. Okay. So I don't think, I know Barb can hear us, Barb Baker, but I don't know if she can actually unmute herself to speak. But Barb Baker, do you have a vote for chairperson? I'll move on and then hopefully she'll respond. James Dom,
I'll go with Janice.
Reverend Gray,
I guess I'll vote for me.
Tom Lawson.
I vote for Janice.
Okay. Janice.
No shame in voting for yourself. I'll vote for me.
Aye.
Mike.
I vote for Janice.
Okay. Staff person told me that Ms. Baker is voting for Janice as well. Hillary.
Janice.
And then Pam. And you're muted.
Reverend Gray.
Okay. I count, let's see, 6 votes for Janice and 2 for Reverend Gray. So I believe that makes Janice the chairperson.
Congratulations, Janice.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, everyone else.
All right. Next item of business is the vice chairperson. Any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Pam Walker.
I'm gonna have to decline.
I'd like to nominate Reverend Gray.
I accept the nomination because I got so much respect for you.
I'd like to renominate Barb Baker, if she would accept it.
Yeah, she indicated she would accept the nomination as vice chair. Any other nominations? Two more times. Any other nominations? So we have 2 nominees before For vice chairperson are Reverend Gray and Barb Baker. Any discussion? Or do we just want to move to the vote?
I've said enough for tonight. But I'd love to hear from Barb if she.
No, how,
Yeah.
is there a code that she needs to enter on the phone to
I think it's *6. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time since I looked it up.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get her to.
Yeah, so if you're listening, Barb, type *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
The host may have the power to unmute
Yeah.
Barb
It doesn't work
if
with
it hasn't
phones.
been tried.
It doesn't work with phones, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, if I could have done so, I would have, yeah, that's not giving me the option.
All I can do is ask her to unmute, which I have repeatedly.
Any discussion, any further discussion, or do we just want to move directly to a vote?
I think we can proceed to a vote.
Okay. I'll go ahead and just call the roll again.
We were going to hook up the webcam if all possible, so she could say something on Ruby's computer.
Okay, do you want to just table that then for a second?
Yeah, we
Move the
can.
secretary.
If not, I'll call on my phone and that'll be, she can speak.
Okay.
We're doing okay. Thank you.
Is that everybody okay with that? If we just,
You still there? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I'll be here till the meeting is over.
Are you good?
She's on there.
You on? You in?
Oh, great.
Barb, is that you?
Yeah, look.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Baker on. I don't care about being on. Let's get Miss Baker on. Can you hear her, Commissioner?
Yeah, I could hear her. She was on the phone.
Okay. Barbara, say something.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear her.
Okay, they can hear you.
Okay.
So did you want to speak to your own nomination as vice chair?
Really, I accept the nomination if I'm accepted, but I really don't want to.
Okay, anything, does she have any other further questions or any comments, or we'll just go ahead to vote?
You guys sound a little muffled.
I mean, if she doesn't want to, maybe I should withdraw my. I don't want to put somebody in a position where they don't want to be in.
Okay. All right.
I'm happy to withdraw my nomination if that makes Barbara feel more comfortable.
Thank you.
All right, so we have one nomination for vice chair. Do we have any other nominees? I think we can just do this by voice vote then. Go ahead. There was a comment?
Yes, I thought that there were two. I thought that I nominated Reverend Gray, and Reverend Gray nominated Pam Walker.
She declined.
Yeah, she declined.
I'm sorry. Yes, continue. Thank you, James.
Actually, can I nominate Hillary?
I'll nominate Reverend Gray for co-chair as well.
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
Okay,
I'm gonna add a nomination of Hillary, if you have any.
okay. Hillary, do you have any, you accept the nomination?
Accept the nomination.
Okay. Any further discussion?
What I will say really quickly in Hillary's defense, because she's, there's so many big names on the call. Hillary has been in this population, working in this population for so long. I met her when she was working within Kim Gardner's office, doing everything that she can to make sure that she can serve people and help expand diversion for people who are, caught up in the system of incarceration. And Hillary has been just so strong when it comes to this type of analysis and serving people. And so I think that we should give her a real consideration for nomination for vice chair.
Can I say something, Matthew?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I want to thank you for the nomination. I know people on the board, they might not see me out in the public eye, but like Michael said, that I have been a part of St. Louis City for a while now. Started with Slate, Merce Goodwill, and working in other foundations throughout the city of St. Louis. So I do appreciate that. And I am more than willing and capable to doing this job and being an advocate for our board and what we stand for. I was in Kim Gardner's office for some years, and it is my heartfelt duty to be on this board. And I appreciate the nomination. If there's any questions, I can answer as well.
Any further comments regarding the vice chair position? Since we have two candidates, Reverend Gray and Hillary Stuckey, I guess we'll just do a roll call vote. Ms. Baker, are you still on the phone? Can you hear us?
Yes, but you sound a little muffled. I can hear everybody else a little clearer.
Okay, I'll try to speak up. This is the time to vote for vice chairperson, whether it's Reverend Gray or Hillary Stuckey.
Reverend Gray or whom?
Hillary.
Well, I think I had already said Reverend Gray.
Okay, I'll mark it as Reverend Gray. James?
I'll go with Reverend Gray as well.
Okay. Reverend Gray?
Janice told me that it's okay if I vote for myself, so I'm gonna follow the chair's lead, and I'm gonna vote for me.
All right, Tom?
Reverend Gray.
Okay, Janice?
Okay.
Reverend Gray.
All right, Mike Milton?
I'm going with Hillary.
Okay, Hillary Stuckey?
For myself, thank you.
And then Pam Walker?
Reverend Gray.
Okay. I have 6 votes for Reverend Gray and 2 for Hillary Stuckey. So Reverend Gray is the vice chairperson.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Congratulations, Brett.
Thank you.
Okay. Next office is secretary.
I nominate Hillary.
I decline.
Hillary?
I was gonna nominate you too.
No. Hillary?
I'd like to nominate Thomas Lawson.
What position is that?
For secretary.
Yeah, I have to decline.
Whoever gets picked will have the assistance of our staff in preparing minutes and like.
Then I nominate Pam Walker. Since Hillary declined on me, I'll nominate Pam. Hillary, I'm calling you later on.
Okay.
Pam, you're still muted.
I renominate Hillary.
I like the spirit.
Hillary, you have 8 nominations.
If no one else wants it, I will do it. But if there's another nomination, I will vote for them.
Okay,
Is that a okay, yes, Hillary?
okay, yes.
Yay,
All right, so
you'll
Hillary,
be great. You'll be great.
I move that nominations come to a close.
okay, any objections or a second to the move to nominate, bring the nominations to a close?
I can't nobody hear. I didn't hear what you guys was nominating Hillary for.
For secretary.
Okay.
Pam, I think we need a second in order to close nominations.
A second.
There you go, Michael. I'm calling you later too. I'll be making all my calls later on
Okay.
tonight.
All those in favor of closing the
Don't
nomination, say
duck
aye.
in.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carries. Since Hillary is the only nominee for secretary, all those in favor of approving her as secretary, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Hearing none, Hillary is approved as secretary.
Congratulations. Hillary.
Thank you.
Deserve it.
All right, moving on to item number 4 is the ordinance calls for a random drawing since the board membership is supposed to be staggered, 3 1-year. There's supposed to be 3-year terms, but staggered, so 3 people are moving on and off the board every year. So,
I thought that those were already assigned on our certificates we received when we were sworn in.
oh, were they?
I believe so.
We all had the maximum term, and I think they did that because that puts us in a position, if that's what you draw, then she appointed you for that.
Oh,
But I
Okay.
think the board bill rules.
Yeah, so the ordinance requires that 3 be drawn for a 1-year term, and then 3 for a 2-year term, and then 3 for a 3-year term initially. But it doesn't affect your ability to be renominated and serve additional terms.
Okay.
So I have everybody's name in a cup here. Does anybody have any objection to me just drawing names out of the cup
Yeah,
for the terms?
I have a clarifying question.
Sure.
Is there, in the bill text, is there a maximum number of years that anyone can serve?
There is. Let me get it. This is, section, yeah, this is section 3. Section 3C states, defines the term, no member shall serve on the board for more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms provided, unless your initial term is less than 3 years, then you may serve additional 2 3-year terms. So the max is 2 3-year terms. But if you're one of the ones who gets the 1-year term, you would still be able to do 2 3-year terms.
And I think Barb's gonna have to look at it because I think we can't go beyond what the mayor appointed us for.
You'd have to be reappointed, I think.
Yeah, she would have to, after 5 years, she would have to reappoint. She can, up to that 6-year limit in the ordinance. I think
James?
does that make sense?
Yeah, I was looking at my certificate. I just brought it out
You have a
here. And I
question, Ms.
I
Baker?
thought Thomas had said when we got sworn in that his was just for this year. My end of commission date is January 20th, 2024 on my
That would be
certificate.
2 years.
But, right.
Okay.
So I didn't think everybody's was the same.
Correct.
So does everybody already have a random,
Did you
term?
hear Ms. Baker,
No,
Commissioner?
I did not. What? Go ahead, Ms. Baker.
She indicated that she received a letter from the mayor indicating that her term ended in 2025.
I wonder, are those the 3 that were appointed by the Public Safety Committee versus those appointed by the mayor. I don't have my certificate in front of me, but I do agree with Pam. I thought it was a longer period. And so when James mentions that, I agree. I looked on that and I said, well, mine says one thing, but I understand the ordinance says something else. But I don't have my certificate with
So
me,
I wasn't sure if it had already been randomly determined and they already did that
Yeah, mine
beforehand.
said it too.
My reading of it, the ordinance requires that the initial meeting, the members' terms shall be determined by random drawing. I mean, it's,
I think mine said 2025 too.
I mean, that is correct. The term section says that,
Yeah.
except as provided in this section, all members shall be appointed for 3-year terms. No member shall serve on the board for more than 2 consecutive 3-year terms, provided an initial member appointed for a term of less than 3 and members appointed to finish the unexpired term of another member shall be eligible to serve 2 consecutive full 3-year terms. The next section D is where the random drawing
Right.
comes in. Yeah, the initial member shall have staggered terms as follows. At the initial meeting of the board, each of the members' terms shall be determined by random drawing. So, yeah.
go ahead, Hillary.
I mean, can I amend me being a secretary? I can't do it. I just don't, I want to amend it if I can. I don't think I could be able to do that. I'm just gonna be honest with the board.
Understood. That's fair. That's fair enough, Hillary.
I'll
Okay.
And
second.
I know we push, we push in, and I think that for all of us, it's because like Mike said, you've definitely earned a role of leadership. And not only earned it, I think everybody on here believes that whatever leadership position you have, you're going to excel in it. And so but I do agree for the board, Matt, with your permission, if Hillary is declining, she can do that. We're not at the end of the board meeting.
Yeah, she can resign, yeah.
Yeah,
Just the position of secretary, and then
Yes.
we can
Right.
fill it at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Commissioner, I have a question. I know you said before that staff would help the secretary. Is it possible that we don't have a board secretary and that staff does that role?
Yeah, that's possible.
Seems-
Yeah.
Okay. Does that require a motion?
Can I think, but let's go back. I want to be clear. The ordinance determines the positions. And the ordinance has determined that there be 3 officers. So can we, because the board is made, I mean, the law is 3 officers. And so maybe Janice, maybe you're right. Maybe it just means just because it's there doesn't mean we have to have it. It just means that if we choose to have it, we can. Does that make sense?
Reverend Gray's actually correct. It does say that the board will elect a secretary at its initial meeting.
Right. And
Is
so I guess, Janice, what I'm saying is that policies that we determine to follow is one thing, but as a legal board that has come out of this ordinance, I would just a suggestion, suggest that if somebody else on the board, I understand Hillary's position, I respect it, but Pam, if you would reconsider your decision to be the secretary, I think that it helps us having those 3 officers doing what this ordinance has deemed necessary and appropriate. Because all of us on here, most of us went through the process of helping to create this law for a reason. And all of these positions are there for a reason, to help this board move effectively and efficiently. So with that, and stop talking, Daryl, I would ask Pam, help me, chair. I would ask Pam if, as Hillary has reconsidered, Pam, I'll ask if you would reconsider. and service secretary.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So do we have to vote? I nominate, do we have to vote, Matt? For the
Yeah,
record.
we do have to vote. And so I think we have to accept Hillary's resignation as secretary only, but still staying on the board.
Yes. Yeah,
Is there a motion to accept her resignation?
so move.
So move.
Okay, and then all those in favor of accepting Hillary's resignation as secretary, say aye.
Aye.
I reluctantly.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the motion is carried. Is there another motion as the secretary?
I move that Pam Walker be appointed by this board as secretary.
I second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion for Pam Walker to serve as secretary?
I have a quick comment just to say that Pam, whatever you feel you need to delegate to staff, that would be more than fine.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of Pam Walker as secretary for the board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the motion carries.
I was waiting for Pam to say no.
All right, so the next item of business, I think, to stay within the ordinance, I think we do need to do the drawing for the initial terms. Is there any further discussion on the drawing of terms, or is there other ways that you all want that accomplished?
Can I ask this? Because I don't have any problem with Matt. I've been knowing Matt for a lot of years. He's a man of integrity, person of integrity. Is there someone else from your office that can come in and witness the drawing just as a
Sure.
matter of process?
Yeah, we can get someone in here.
Does that make sense? That way no one can question. I just want it to be, Matt, where no one is able to question the process. Because I know you big enough, nobody's gonna question you. I just don't want them to question the process.
All right, Anzwar is one of our legal investigators. He's gonna come in and he'll do the actual drawing. We'll put him on camera here.
There you go.
So what we'll do is the first three names will have the 1-year terms. This next three names will have the 2-year terms. And the last three names will have the 3-year terms, unless there's an objection or. So we'll go ahead and do you want to just pull one out at a time? Janice missing. All right, so Janice, you have one of the 1-year terms. Okay, second one. Ornitha Lewis Walls has a 1-year term. Thomas Lawson. And Thomas Lawson has a 1-year term. All right, for the 2-year terms. Hillary Stuckey. Okay, go ahead. Mike Milton. And Pam Walker have the 2-year terms. And that would mean the remaining people have the 3-year terms, which are, go ahead, Barbara Baker, James Dom, and Reverend Gray. So that just shows everybody's name was actually in the drawing as well. Do we need a motion to accept these initial terms? Thanks, Oswald.
I don't think we need a motion only because we follow the ordinance. It wasn't our procedure. It was the law.
Okay. One second. Okay.
Everybody remember, you can get reappointed for another 3-year term.
Yep.
By the mayor, correct?
Yeah, or whoever your appointing authority was. So the next item up for discussion is just the member orientation. And I was just going to let everyone know that the ordinance requires these 7 topics to be covered in an orientation kind of format. One is the detention facility operations, and then the policy procedures for the Department of Corrections. And then there needs to be a presentation on the statutes regarding the federal, state, city ordinance of detention facilities, including conditions and treatment of detainees. Again, some more legal training on the rights of detention employees, and then also the rights of citizens and detainees, whether it's constitutional, statutory, or ordinances. And then we also need training on confidentiality as we get into personnel matters and individual identifying information, and then also the Missouri Sunshine Law. I've already been speaking with Commissioner Clemens Abdullah regarding putting together some training and orientation. It'd be a good chance for the board to interact with her and just talk about the operations. And hopefully that'll be the next meeting, will be her. And I guess I'm just putting it out there for discussion as to who you'd want to do training or who you'd want to hear from. I mean, that's part of the board, is have people come present to you. Just let me know. Or if you have ideas now, I'm willing to listen. And I'm sure Barb has a really good, I can send everyone the link on her Missouri Sunshine training that's on YouTube. But I think would be willing to give that again as well. So any discussions as to who you want us to get for the next meetings?
Just as far from a legal point of view, to protect the board, would it make more sense for us to do the sunshine training first so that we know the do's and don'ts legally of what we can say and what we can't say and how we should be communicating it? Would that be number one? And then number two, probably meeting with the commissioner there, particularly because all of us have indicated or expressed some urgency, just some urgency in understanding the facility and how the facility is run, so forth and so on. So I don't know how long, Matt, the training is. If you said these 4 things, that these 4 things are 4 training opportunities that we need to look at, these 4 different topics. If we talk about the sunshine training, how many hours is that? If we talk about visiting with the detention commission, how many hours is that? If we're talking about the other 2 components, how many hours are we talking about? 3 here, 1.5 here, 2 here, 3 there, because I think that would also help us to determine, what we should do first and how much time we need to allocate on those Monday nights that we have determined we're going to be available as a board. Was that too much?
I'll let Barbara speak as to the Missouri Sunshine Law, but I'm kind of estimating an hour to 2, depending on the topic. Some can be covered more quickly than others. Like I would expect facility operations to be a little bit longer, or the policies and procedures for corrections, just because that's such an important part of what the board needs to know. But I think an hour or 2 for most of the topics.
Would that be over a certain time span,
Say that again. I
an
didn't.
hour or two here or there. Would that be over a certain time span in terms of an hour or two here or there over 2 weeks, over a month, or?
Yeah, definitely. We'd break it up into like 2 hour blocks or 3, whatever the board decides they want to hear. And as chairperson, we can get together
Okay.
and kind of decide just the agendas for the next meetings of how you want to break that up. That's kind of up to you. I mean, it'd probably be
Okay.
best broken up.
Right. Okay.
And then the any further discussion on the orientation topics or yeah, just you have my email and phone number. Let me know.
Is any of it stuff we can just take online? Like, is there a canned presentation on Robert's rules someplace out there that we don't have to take up a whole board meeting with it? We can just all watch it on our own pace.
Yeah, we can explore that to see if there's some of the topics that can be, does that constitute a meeting if we do training? If we do individual training, are we in
Well,
violation?
we can have more than 6 meetings. We
Yeah.
just have to have 6.
Right, no, but I don't want to be in violation of a public meeting if you're doing an online training.
Yeah.
No, I think if you provide the link and invite people to watch it, and there's not a discussion going on between a quorum of the board, if you just provide it and say, before the next meeting, please watch this. You say it at a particular meeting. I don't think,
Okay. Yeah, so I'll send out the link. Barbara has a good sunshine law training that she has done. And it's about 45 minutes, I think, long, that I'll send to the board that you can do before the next meeting. To start there, and then if we have more questions, we can ask them then. And then just to kind of let you know, as we're going forward on the ordinance, the other things that kind of the next order of business that I'm doing is developing the rules and procedures that you all will have to approve for how do we receive complaints, how do we review complaints, by what standards, are there specific things that we're going to do with every complaint, how we investigate, how we're going to notify, and then also for the receiving and reviewing complaints, but then also for conducting the investigations. And there's 2 types of investigations envisioned by the ordinance. The professional standards inquiries, which is more of an internal affairs. Did the staff or officers abide by their own internal policies? And then also the criminal accountability investigations, which we're trying to determine in conjunction with the circuit attorney's office. So those are some of the things that we're working on just day to day, is trying to get those implemented and up and running and receiving the information. And we got to figure out a way to for you all to be able to review in a confidential manner the complaints that we receive. So as we start receiving complaints, what we do for the Civilian Oversight Board is we've set up kind of a server that only certain people have access to. We can control who has access to them, and that where complaints and documents can be reviewed by board members. So we'll explore doing that as well for you all. Just be aware, we currently, I was the 3rd employee when I started in June. We're up to 5 now. We're trying to bring on a 6th record person, hopefully by September. But the ordinance envisions up to 14 staff. So we're still understaffed as we get going here. So there's a lot of hiring that we're doing as well. So just kind of keep that in mind. We won't be able to go full board on investigations just yet till we get more investigators. That being said, the legal investigator position is open on the City of St. Louis jobs website. So if you know people that you think would be good investigators, encourage them to apply there. Is there any other business or questions that people have for us tonight?
I would just say if Division of Corrections policy is an area of interest, it is up on the city's website. If you go to the departments under corrections, they have the current policies. They are dry. I will tell you firsthand knowledge. They're not real thrilling reading, but if you're interested in getting a handle on them, they're up there.
Oh, Lord.
I think Ms. Baker was trying to make a comment, Commissioner.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Baker.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, she's okay.
Yeah, I heard them.
Okay.
Commissioner, I do have a question. In terms of board members offering language or suggestions for what we'd like to see added to the procedures related to the things you just mentioned, the system of complaints, confidentiality, etc. In terms of sunshine law, are we allowed to email you what our suggested language would be, or do we just wait for your draft and propose something at the next meeting?
Barbara, is that okay if they email suggestions if it's individually to me and not a quorum of the board, like a group email?
Yeah, I think that's fine, just to communicate that to you per your request.
Okay.
And now emails that you receive are going to be public records, and they're going to come to you on your city email account, and the city emails, even if they're, anything, they're public records. They're retained for, I believe, 10 years on the Google Vault. So you are creating public record, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine.
But it's not in violation of the meeting. It's when we have,
No,
when we
it's
run
when
afoul is the group email that constitutes a meeting without public notice. So,
yeah.
okay.
But I'm gonna do my secretary thing here. As the secretary, under Robert's rules, I'm the keeper of records officially for Sunshine, I believe. So I need to be copied, I think, Barb. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm hurriedly flipping back to the ordinance because I know it says somewhere also that the director or the commissioner is the custodian of records.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in the ordinance.
I think it would be good practice also to copy the secretary. And I know we haven't formally adopted Robert's rules, but I would suggest that everybody would copy. Yeah.
I don't want stuff I don't need, but I just know under the Sunshine Law, we have to have a keeper of the record. So if we get a media request or something, it all has to be in one spot and producible.
Mm-hmm.
And
So does Pam need a city email then?
Director, is there a provision? I'm looking for it. I thought that there was something making you the custodian for the Sunshine purposes. Am I accurate with that?
That's what I thought, but I'm wondering if it's in the new bill and not this one, because I'm not seeing it as
I think it is the new bill, but I just remember it saying choose.
No. Here I am on page 13 of 24 in the committee substitute of ordinance 71430 is adopted. I'm in section 4, paragraph E. The DFOB shall maintain records of its proceedings, inquiries, reports, and other materials that constitute records under the Missouri Sunshine Law. The director shall be the DFOB's custodian of records for purposes of the Missouri Sunshine Law.
Right.
perfect. Okay, I don't want anything then.
got it.
To clarify to what you said earlier, Barbara, does the city keep records in Google Vault? Is that the system?
Our emails are Google. And so when, emails are going through the city system, they're going to be in Google. And it's just good to be aware that they're there. That's a record. The Sunshine Law is a record retained by the public governmental body. So there are also other, and we can talk about it when we get to, to training in the Sunshine Law. If you use, and I don't suggest anyone doing this, but if you would use a personal device to send a city business email, that would also be a public record, and you would have to send a copy of that to Director Brumman so that he could archive it and, keep it.
Okay, great.
It would be
Thank you.
rare. I mean, because I would suggest just not doing it so you don't have the additional thing to think about, Now, if you have to, I don't know how many people have a city account or whatever, but again, let's just save that, I guess, for our training.
Okay.
And if everyone watches the training and you want to have a follow-up question, feel free to contact me with those.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other further items for tonight?
I do have a question. I guess I'm just thinking about Ornitha not being able to join tonight. I'm not sure what happened. But will there be an option for future meetings if someone's not as tech savvy? Can they go to the city office where you all are and join from there or something like that?
Yeah, we can make that available.
Okay,
Yep.
great. And this will be available on YouTube on the city's
Yes.
account. Okay, great.
Anybody want to move to adjourn?
I'll make a
I'm going to
motion to
move to
adjourn.
adjourn. Well, I'm going to second it, but before we vote on it, I do want to say to the board, I'm encouraged, as one who's been involved in this process or getting to this point from its inception. I am extremely encouraged. I'm encouraged by the participation and by the commitment and by the leadership. I look forward to working with Janice and the entire board and to Matt with the staff. I'm hoping that we will move as quickly as possible, realizing that we have to dot the I's and cross the T's. This is very real work that we're talking about. It's very critical work. So I want to thank all of you for your support. I want to thank you for, it's been a humbling experience tonight too. But I'm looking forward to the work that we have yet to do. And so with that, I will second the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Why would they be?
All right, thanks everyone for your patience and look forward to working with you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.